I'm gonna have this hair for maybe one more week, maybe 5 days, and then I'm gonna take it out and change the hairstyle. It's been quite interesting. I think I've had it for, or rather by the time I would take it out, I'd have had it for 3 weeks, which is quite short for something that's like braids, etc. But it is quite hard to manage. They get the braids and everything, the hair keeps getting nested, but that's because of the style, because some bits aren't braided. But I actually have enjoyed it. I really like the look, and yeah, let's just get the video started. So hi, if you haven't met me before or you've never heard of me, my name is Akachi, but professionally I go by the name Kach, K-A-A-C-H. I am a singer-songwriter. Still feels weird when I say that, considering that this time last year I had no music out at all. I was just a normal human being, and then now I have about 7 records out, and hopefully I'll make multiples of that in the future. But yeah, I'm a singer-songwriter, and I just started uploading videos on my YouTube recently that are not like music videos, so just me talking to you. And I decided to do a topic on the 7 scrappy steps I take when I want to create music as an independent artist. So I'm not signed to any label, and it's not actually one of my goals. Yes, I'll be open to distribution deals, etc., but like the whole generic 360 deal, record label type of agreement is not something that is on my goal at all, especially because owning my own intellectual property and assets is one of the main reasons why I started doing music in the first place. So actually getting signed to a label and handing over those rights will be very counterintuitive. Anyway, so yeah, I'm an independent singer-songwriter. I fund my music myself, and then I create my music collaborating with some other creative professionals. I'll just break down the quick 7 steps I usually take, and if there's any bits you want to have more information on, please leave that in the comments below, and I could make a separate video about it later on. So I just turned 25 this month, but if we backtrack less than 2 years ago, so when I was well into my 23rd year in this world, I decided to start music. I had no idea, like I had no knowledge whatsoever about the music business, and to be honest, I was first afraid of that until, you know, I just worked to reduce some of my self-limiting beliefs. So I had no understanding of the music business or the music industry, and not only that, I didn't even know I could write songs. So I was coming in very, very, very fresh and like dull-eyed, if that even makes sense. But I wanted to write a song, or rather I wanted a friend to write a song for me, but like the 2 friends of friends I got connected to, they didn't just want to write a song for me and like hand it to me. They wanted us to learn together, and so they told me, oh, go online, go on YouTube and think of an artist you think you like their music and put their name there, followed by type beat. And I didn't know what a type beat was. That was the first time in my life that I'd heard of the phrase type beat. And so I think when I wanted to go into this music thing, I thought I would try kind of Afro beats type sounds, and so we looked at a few Johnny Drill type beats, but I think quickly we recognized that the sounds weren't really suited to me, and then I started experimenting with different type beats. And so finally I saw that, okay, some artists that like I could write very easily to their type beats were people like Billie Eilish, Lana Del Rey, Frank Ocean, XXXTentacion, just a kind of like a completely different sound to Afro beats. So that's the first step in when I want to write my music. I would first go on YouTube and find a type beat of any of the artists I feel like I could vibe to their sound, if that makes sense. And it's experimentation that will get you there. There was a time, you know, when I was 23 and I would log onto my YouTube and like 90-something% of the recommendations will be type beat recommendations, and that's because I used to go through so many type beats from different artists, and so YouTube just kept recommending to me type beats and recommending to me different producers, because there's so many music producers who just create type beats and then they put them online, and you can either buy them or you can lease them, or some of them are free to use but for non-commercial purposes. So normally what will happen is I would just take the type beat and then I would use that as a guide to compose my vocals. So my vocals will have its own melody, it will have its own lyrics, but I would use the type beat to guide the creation of that, just the way someone can play chords on a piano and someone else could write to those chords. That's how I would use the type beat. And I don't don't know how to play any instrument. So I mean, in the future, I hope I do learn an instrument, maybe the guitar or the piano, but at the moment I don't know how to. So that was kind of my guide, and so far that is kind of my guide. And so number one, I find a type beat on YouTube. Number two step is that I then write the lyrics. So some people write lyrics and they try to add melody afterwards. Some people create a melody first, like they'll hum something and try to add words later on. But for me, I have this ability to write both lyric and melody at the same time. So I write it line by line, but every line I write also has a melody I've created attached to it. So if a type beat starts, I'm not gonna say walking downstairs I thought of you. I wouldn't write that, but I would try and sing and see what works melody wise. So I could be like walking downstairs thinking of you instead of walking downstairs thinking of you, and then coming back later to add a melody onto it. So that's it. Number one, I create the type beats. Number two, sorry, I keep playing with my hair, and that's because they keep getting nested, and so I can't resist trying to unnest them together. Okay, anyway, so I was saying, so first step, find the type beats. Number two, create my lyrics and my melody. And then once I do that, I would still put this as part of number two, but I would send it to a couple or so of my friends and ask them what they think about the song. Now, you can't just send this to anybody. You can't just send this to anybody. You have to send it to people you are very, very sure of listen to a variety of music, and also they are people who appreciate music, because it'll make sure that number one, they're not overly critical. There's some people who like maybe they've heard a song from you before and they really liked it, and so it's very hard for them to hear subsequent songs and also say they like it, because they're going to keep comparing it to that first song, and because they really prefer that one, they'll, you know, I don't know how to explain it. Basically, find 2 or 3 people in your circle who listen to a lot of music and listen to music a lot, like they always have their headphones on, because those kind of people will tend to appreciate music. And also find people who are honest. Like sometimes people might not really like something, but because they don't want to hurt your feelings, they'll tell you it's good. I don't really know how to explain it, but you just have to find 2 or 3 friends of yours who appreciate music and listen to loads of music, and send what you've just recorded or what you've just written to them. So actually, it's probably going to be 8 steps, because I didn't write this down, but when I find the type beats and I do the lyric and the melody, I then record a demo. So one thing I do when I'm writing the lyric and the melody is that I also have my phone recorder on. That's not what I use for the demo, by the way, but I do that so that, let's say I get to the chorus, I know the progress I've made. Because if I'm writing lyric and melody and I start in the beginning of the song and I'm going, I might forget what the beginning sounds like by the time I get to the second verse. So it's important that your phone recorder is on during your writing process, so that if you don't remember any little bits, you can just play the recording back and remind yourself, right? So once I get the type beats and I write the lyric and the melody, I then record myself singing to the type beats, singing what I've written to the type beat on a DAW, which is, what is a DAW? I think it's called a digital audio workstation. I'm not too sure, but if it's not that, I'll put the real meaning here in the video. And those are the ways people record things and produce things, etc. I found one during the pandemic called Soundtrap, and it's a cloud-based DAW, DAW, and normally that's what I use to record my demos. There's actually way more established DAWs like FL, Reaper, Ableton, Logic, etc., but I just use this one because it's so easy. I record my video on it, sorry, my demo on it, and I don't even use like a proper mic or anything. I use this mic, which I got on Amazon for like £30 or something. There's a lot of noise in the recording, but it's nice, and I think the DAW usually sprinkles a bit of like reverb on it, so it does sound quite nice. And so once I have that demo recorded as an MP3, I then send it to my friends, those 2 or 3 friends, and if they all say, okay, this sounds nice, this is a good song, then I know, okay, it's moving on to production. If half of them say yes and half of them say no, I'll put it on hold because something is off there, and if they all say no, then songs in the trash. Okay, so step 1, I find a type beat. Step 2, I write the lyrics and the melody that I want. Number 3, I record the demo. And then number 4, I find a music producer, a sound engineer that can help me create the instrumental for cheap. Because remember, I found a type beat and I used that to guide me to write the vocals, but it's not my type beat. Like someone else has created that. I don't like to lease beats because I don't have the rights. I wouldn't get the rights. I'll just be able to use it, but I don't have the final rights. And then I most times can't even afford to buy proper beats, like the full license, like basically the unrestricted beats, because a lot of times it's kind of like £1,000 or $1,000 or something, and a girl ain't have that much money, especially if I'm producing a lot of music. Not a lot of people produce a lot of music, but I love Ross and I love the way he puts out a lot of music. So if you want to put out a lot of music, like loads and loads, then you either have to learn how to produce yourself, or you find someone who can facilitate that for you, like produce for you, but for really cheap. So since I know I can't use the type beats that I've written the song to, normally I would just take my vocal, right? So I get the vocal track from the demo I recorded on Soundtrap, and I just get the vocal track, and it doesn't even have the type beat. It's just me singing. There's no beat playing in the background. It's kind of like a cappella. And then I go out and find a music producer and I say, look at this song, look at this a cappella file. Can you create a beat that works for this? Some people can do it, some people cannot do it. There are some producers who want to be able to just start to produce a beat from scratch, and then when they produce the beat, an artist will sing and create lyrics and melody for that beat. Whereas there's some people who are actually able to take a pure vocal file that's just basically a cappella and create an instrumental around it, and like that's like a full instrumental with different sounds and different instruments, etc. So how do I do this? Actually, I go onto a site called upwork.com. You can use different sites for this. I know there's Fiverr, there's Sound Better, and there's way more, but I use upwork.com because so far I've just really liked it, and I also compare it to like Fiverr or the other sites. And I usually I'll post a job post and I'll say music producer needed for a song, and we need someone to create an instrumental for a vocal track. Now I would say at the moment I can get that done very, very cheap, and we're talking $70, $100, $150, $200, but the cheapest I've been able to get to sustainably is $70, which is very low considering that a lot of people who pull beats online, if you want to get the exclusive rights and like everything, you could be paying $1,000. But by just being very scrappy and going online onto a site with a lot of freelancers from around the world and saying, look, all I have is $70, all I have is $100 or $150, and I have a vocal track and I need someone who's a multi-instrumentalist ideally to create a beat for me, you can actually find someone who's willing to work at your budget level. And that's the thing with willing to be scrappy and willing to go unconventionally, is that you can find things that work for your budget. I'm sure if you had £500, you would find someone who could do that. If you had £50, £100, you could find someone. If you had £2,000, you can find someone. It all depends. And I've actually done beats for nearly £500. I've done them different prices, and I know obviously the better the quality I'm looking for, then the higher the amount I would need to pay. But right now I'm just hiring at the point that I can afford. And remember, I'm independent, so I'm funding every single thing. If I'm putting out 20 songs this year and I'm paying $100 per song just for beats, that's already $2,000, right? And that's just for the beats. That's not even for the other creatives that work on each song or the videos or the marketing or anything. So it actually comes into the tens of thousands of pounds per year to produce a lot of music, and that's just coming from my pockets. So yeah, you find a producer or a sound engineer. I recently realized that I get better results when I actually, instead of saying music producer or sound engineer, I actually post that I'm looking for a multi-instrumentalist, because there are people like that who can play 5-6 plus instruments, and not only that, they've trained in music production as well. And you always get a better, for me anyway, I feel like I get a better, more creative, more original outcome than if, you know, it's just a music producer who, yes, knows how to work with the different software and everything, but they don't actually have real life hands-on experience in playing instruments. So yeah, that was number 4, finding a music producer. And you don't have to go through freelancer sites as well. You can also just ask friends of friends, you know, and be like, hi, message your friends and say, do you have like, you know, any friend that's a music producer? Can you connect me? And that could work as well. That's actually how I found my first music producer, who's the one who produced the beats for What You Mean to Me, 16, and I think another one who did Daughter You Deserve as well. I found them through friends, and then it was later, after the first 4 or 5 songs, I started going through freelancer sites, and I found out they were slightly cheaper than even the producers I met through friends. Again, because there's just financial arbitrage that you can leverage on, because, you know, $100 might not be much to you if you're in the US or the UK, but someone who's in the Philippines, that the money carries a lot more weight, or someone who is in, you know, a South American country or an African country, the money carries more weight. It's not $100 is different there. It's not, you understand, right? Like someone could go out now for a night out and spend $100, whereas there it's it could last like weeks and it could do a lot more for them. So yeah, there's that financial arbitrage that you're able to leverage on if you go through freelancer sites and you're really strapped with cash. Obviously, as I advance in my music, I want to find better talent, and better talent would require, you know, higher prices, and I am aware of that and I'm okay with that. But you know, everything's just baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. Okay, so what is the next step? So after the producer produces the song, after the producer produces the instrumental, I then take that instrumental, I go back to Soundtrap, and I then properly record the song I've written, right, on top of this instrumentals that are now for this song. Maybe if you want to see me do a video on like the equipment I use for recording, let me know. But basically I record the song, and just know that when the producer or the instrumentalist is creating the beat, it's not like, hi, here's your beat and then that's it. No, like a lot of times it starts little by little. They can send you the first 30 seconds or minute and say, are we going in the right direction? And then you can say yes or no, and you can go through different versions. One of the guys I work with right now from Brazil, who has produced a lot of my songs, we normally go through 3 to 4 or 5 versions of a song before we then say this is it. And it's just like iterations and tiny changes, and you know, the sound isn't working, or this area of the song sounds too cluttered, or can we throw in some, you know, drums here, etc. right? So you go through different iterations and then you get to the final version of the instrumental. In the future, I will do a video on how to hire wisely when you're using this site, because it takes practice. Hiring is a skill, and it takes a lot of, you know, experiences to know what to watch out for, and what are good signs, what are green flags and what are red flags when you are hiring, and when you're hiring creative professionals particularly. So yeah, I can do a video about that if you want to learn more. But as I was saying, once the instrumental is done, I then take that, go back to Soundtrap, and then I record the song. For my first 4 songs, I actually record them, 4 or 5 songs, I recorded them in Lagos, Nigeria. So December 2020, I went back to visit for about a month, and I met the, you know the producers I told you I met through friends. They have studios, and I went to their studio and I recorded the songs. But ever since then, I've recorded most of my songs in my room here, my shoebox room here in London. And I have a mic, it's a Rode mic, and I got a sound card. It's actually behind me, like not stored properly. And it's just a few days ago I brought a proper like recording headset, like what's called a money tool. But really, I just use normal phone headphones, and I have the mic, and then I record my vocals. So at this point, we have the instrumental, we have my vocals. What I will then do, or what I've done so far, is that I often will go back to upwork.com again. And by the way, this video is not sponsored by any of the people or brand or sites I'm mentioning. I'm literally just saying what I do. And then I find a backup vocalist. Honestly, all the times I've ever used a backup vocalist, I've used the same person. Her name's Jessie, and she travels in between the US and Australia often. But I found her, I think it was when I recorded What You Mean to Me. I sent it to a friend who does music, and he said it sounds a bit empty, it needs a bit of backup vocals. And so I mean, you can do your backup vocals yourself, but I feel like when you bring someone else in, it adds a bit more, it makes the song sound a bit more dynamic. You know, you're introducing a new voice into the song. It's a different feeling. Your minds aren't the same, so you guys don't have the same creative ideas of how to harmonize. So you know, I found her for that song, and I've used her ever since. I think for the first 2 songs she did for me, I paid, it was $50 per song, but it's now gone down to $40 just because I'm doing a lot of songs with her. And when you're working with someone for long, like you're doing repeat orders, you can often negotiate an amount that is less than what you would normally do, or rather less than what they would normally do, because you're coming back and you're ordering more, so they can give you a discount. In this case, I was able to get I think it was 20% discount, basically 50 to 40. Personally, I find it extremely low, because I think Upwork takes like 20% of what you're paying to the freelancer. They take it to themselves, so it's not like they even get all the money. But to be honest, I will just send her the song, and she would just like harmonize in a few places, and she'll send it back to me. And so yeah, that's what step is that? So there's the type beat, writing the lyrics and the melody, then creating my own beat, then recording. Oh god, I've lost track, I'm sorry. I feel like maybe I've told you 5 steps now. Anyway, we've harmonized, right? And so now I have my beat, my lyrics and melody, aka my vocals, and then the vocals of the backup artist. And then I find someone who can do mixing and mastering for me. If you listen to all my songs, you'll see that they sound very different production wise. That's because I've used various people for mixing and mastering, and it wasn't until the last song I produced, which hasn't been released by the way, it's called Can We Go Back. It wasn't until then that I felt like, okay, I really like the sound. Now, for many of the sounds in the beginning, it was hit or miss. So as I'm releasing this video now, or rather as you're watching this video, I think I put out 3 or 4 songs this year, but I've actually produced about 15, fully produced. They're already scheduled and ready for release via the distribution platforms. And you're gonna see a lot of songs I released in 2022. Some are gonna sound very good, some are gonna sound a bit weird, but that's because mixing and mastering has been very hit or miss for me, depending on who is mixing and mastering it. Or sometimes it's the same person but different songs will come out differently. Most of the people that I've gotten to mix and master for me have been people via upwork.com. I don't know why I keep saying upwork.com. It's .com, okay? So I'll just keep saying Upwork. However, I've also worked with people that are recommendations from friends, but mostly from Upwork. I'm hoping that I meet better mixing and mastering engineers in the future, and I'm hoping that I'm able to afford them, because right now at the moment I would say I pay between 100 and 150 per song to mix, and that's dollars, yeah, to mix and master a song. And it's usually the same person who mixes and masters the song. Some people like to do it differently. Some people want to mix but someone else masters. However, most times I've just stuck with the same person because it's okay. And then recently, I think the last song I've produced but I haven't released, which is Can We Go Back. I really like the way that was done. That is just someone who was recommended to me by a friend, and the reason why I even chose to work with him was a lot of times I would be mixing and mastering other songs. So an engineer would mix and master a song for me, and I would send it to this guy and be like, hi, what do you think of this? And he would give really detailed feedback. So I was very curious. I was like, well, you seem to know a lot about this, so how about you just mix one of my songs? And then he did, and I was very impressed. So sometimes mixing and mastering in the early stages will be hit and miss, but you give it enough time, you speak to enough people, you work with enough people, and you'll find some people who are reliable and you can go to on a recurring basis to get a good quality, good standard of work. Okay, so after mixing and mastering, the next stage is I would basically submit the song for release, and I use TuneCore. TuneCore charges about I'm not too sure, but I think it's $10 per release per year. So for example, if I want to release a song, it might cost me $10 for that song to be live on all streaming platforms for a year, but then you have to keep renewing it every year. Whereas the other DSPs, I don't even know what DSP stands for. I think it's distribution service platform, basically distribution platforms. They tend to do a mix. So something like CD Baby, you don't have to pay a fee every year for your song to remain live. You just pay a one-off fee, but I think they also take 10% of your income from the song, from that, you know, comes in via streaming platforms. So you need to think about which one would be good for you, right? If you think your music is not going to make enough money to offset the yearly subscription fee of $10 per song that TuneCore requires, then go with something else, maybe CD Baby, where you don't actually pay money every year, but they take 10% of your income. However, if you believe you're going to be very successful in future with your music, then maybe TuneCore is better. So for example, in my first 10 months of music, I think I've made a combination of about maybe £500 from, you know, streaming platforms, which isn't a lot, but it kind of means that I've paid £80 to the distribution platform, and whereas actually the streaming sales that year have been £500. And the final step, when I've scheduled a song for release, I then market the song. So I'm probably the worst person to listen to when it comes to music marketing. There's a lot of things you can do, you know, before your song comes out. I do none of those. But I'll get better. I'll get better in the future. At the moment now, once the song comes out, I just do a bit of playlist pitching, and then that's it. And I use 2 main services. I use Playlist Push and I use Submit Hub. And Playlist Push basically submits your song to a bunch of playlists, and if the playlists like the song, they'll take it, and if they don't like the song, they'll reject it. And you often, by the way, get more rejections than acceptances. Like maybe 1 in 10 could accept you. And then Submit Hub operates in the same way as well. And those are the 2 main ways I've just promoted my songs to date. And I could do more, but I just don't have the finances at this point in time to do more. And it's not just finances, it's also time and effort. And when you have a full-time job, it's not the easiest thing to do. And then you're independent as well, so you don't have like a creative team around you, a management team around you. And by the way, you can have a management team when you're independent, but again, finances. But yeah, I do that, and those are the 2 main ways. They've produced okay results, but it's What You Mean to Me that has done the most, because I released that last year, less than a year ago, and it now has over 300,000 plays, which, you know, has outdone my expectations, whereas the other songs all have less than 20,000 plays each, and they all were promoted the same way. So yeah, anyway, those are my steps, my Scrappy steps. steps that I use to produce music at the moment as an independent artist. I've been in the game for a year now, and that's how it's been so far. Obviously, I'll get more sophisticated and learn as I go, but I just wanted to do a quick video. Like, when you're in your 20s and you're trying to start music and you don't know how to start, what are some other people doing? And I'm just deciding to give my own story of what I'm doing. I still feel very weird when I tell anyone how I create music. I feel like it's not professional enough, or it's not high class enough, or it's not, you know, it's not how it's done. But I call it a patchwork approach. Whatever, the music gets out, the music gets out, all is well. Hope you enjoyed it. If there's any bits you want me to explain more on, or if there's any topic you want me to do video on, or any questions you have, put it in the comments below. I'll read it and try my best to get to the point. Thank you. Bye.